So just when we thought that we could move on from Breaking Bad and do other things, we had a little roadblock. We talked about this in the channel update video, but the new Breaking Bad movie is coming out in October 11th, correct?
Yeah, it is. And a part of us was like, sweet, more Breaking Bad. And the other part is, fuck, we got to do those season reviews way earlier than we thought we were gonna.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot to do it because we've lost a lot of time, and we got to get cracking. I mean, it's only September 17th. We have a little less than a month, and luckily, you're like, it's not like we have to watch the break. I don't think we're gonna end up watching the Breaking Bad movie that day. So um, so we have that luxury. But yeah,
we'll try to watch it as soon as we can, just because, like,
yeah,
we don't
like before I go back to school, like the following Tuesday, because and stuff like that, because we don't want to get spoiled. But we didn't do the introduction because I wanted to kick off with that. I'm Owen Finch, and I'm here with
AJ Talent, and this is our season review of Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
season 1. And
this is more, yeah. Well, this is going to be more of a overview. We're not going to go through like every little thing that happens because we'd be here all day. And it kind of defeats the purpose of like season reviews. We are going to say, since we're going back and rewatching this a second time, we are going to bring up future seasons. So I would highly recommend, if you're going to watch this video or any of these season reviews, watch the whole show first.
We already did episode reviews. Well, actually, it was just you for season 1. But
yeah.
We did episode reviews where we, go through it like for the first time. So now we're doing it like in hindsight.
Yeah, so we want to make sure we say that so that way we don't get the hate that we spoiled it. We did give you the warning, so now
spoiling 3, 2, 1. Walter dies.
Yep.
So if you didn't click off the video yet, sorry.
Yeah, that's kind of your own fault. But let's talk about Breaking Bad. I want to talk about a little bit like some history of like what went into like making the show, because I think it's kind of cool. I looked this up a while ago, but like it's created by Vince Gilligan. And it's kind of funny. It all started as a joke between him and somebody else saying like, what if this happened in like real life? And I guess that one joke led to like the best, probably like one of the best television shows in history.
I know, right? It's always little stuff like that sparks the big things.
Yeah. And he wanted to make the interest because he kind of wanted to take the Scarface element to it. Godfather. We haven't seen any of those movies yet, so I don't really...
I think he even said what happened if like Mr. Rogers became Scarface.
Yeah, pretty much. And they were casting people, and we could go through like everyone that was cast. I want to talk about like one notable thing about this cast is, even though like everyone's careers was probably like good, like I feel like one big example we could talk about is Dean Norris, who plays Hank. I think his career completely changed from this show, because remember, we watched The Negotiator. He doesn't have a very big role really in that movie.
Yeah, really, he's barely in it even.
So I feel like
out for most of the movie.
Yeah. So I feel like this show like changed his acting career like forever.
Yeah, I mean, people like Bryan Cranston, who plays Walter White. He already had a pretty good career. He was the dad of Malcolm in the Middle.
And actually, I should talk about it. They originally weren't going to cast him because of that, because they were worried, they were going to think, hey, this is the dad. Because that typically happens. This is the dad for Malcolm in the Middle. No one's going to take this seriously.
Right. But Vince Gilligan had worked on him on like a more serious show. I think it was CSI.
Yeah. So
Vince Gilligan knew that he could be like a serious actor.
And I think I'll continue to say this. I think this is the reason Bryan Cranston rejuvenated his career. This got people to see he could be the serious guy and also this comedic guy all at the same time.
Not that there's anything wrong with him just being a comedic actor, but it is important to say this probably helped him land in more serious roles.
And I feel this extended his Hollywood career, because I mean obviously this is kind of one of those things where we don't know, but Bryan Cranston maybe would have retired by now, but because of this,
he's getting pretty old in age. He's what, in his 60s right now?
I think he is 60. He's 60, 61-ish. So
yeah.
I feel definitely by now he would have retired. So
I mean, then again, Mike, the actor who plays Mike, he's still acting. So
Yeah, which we'll talk about that later, because that's an interesting story in itself. But also too, I feel like too, it allowed because Bryan Cranston like directed and wrote some of the episodes, and now today he writes a lot of plays and stuff like that too. So
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
yeah, um, I think what I like about Breaking Bad versus like The Walking Dead, I don't even seen it yet, but you get to feel like the actors, because I mean obviously too, because Walking Dead a lot of it's a comic, so you can't really have a lot of say of what doesn't happen. You could see like the actors had like a big influence of why the show kind of ended in a way. Like you could see like a lot of input if you watch like clips of they talk about how they wanted to get things kind of obviously like they weren't like dicks about it or anything like that, but they
Yeah, but they're like, I think this would be good for my character, and there's nothing wrong with that, Like I think that's an important thing for an actor. Be like, I play this guy, and if I were this guy, I feel like things should turn out this way, turn out this way.
And one other thing as I talk about too, I always consistently think this, and then we'll get into the season review. What makes Breaking Bad so great is you can't see like anybody else playing these characters. Like
Exactly.
Bryan Cranston is Walter White, even though later, because I forget his name, but it's like the same. But no, you couldn't see anyone else playing Gus. You couldn't see anyone else playing Mike. You couldn't see anyone else playing later on Saul, Jesse. You get what the point. I mean, you could say maybe like you could see someone else playing like Skylar or Marie, but still like
yeah. Well, they're more minor characters, but like even then,
yeah. But like a lot of it is you can't see anyone else playing like these characters. So I think it's cool.
So the acting overall is still like really good, like top notch.
And let's talk about the season review. Now I feel like season 1 gets tossed under the rug a little bit. Because all the other seasons are so great, especially because seasons 4 and 5 are so awesome. A lot of people kind of forget season 1, so they're like, it's good, but it's not.
Which I mean makes sense. Like I do agree that season 1 is probably the weakest out of them.
Yeah, but I think season 1 is like still good. Like if you do go back and we watch like some episodes, you're like, wow, like because it's like setting the foundation of the show. It's like setting up, and they do it like very well. Like even though like there's not like these big like scenes that happen like that you never forget, but there's still very good acting in it. And I think you also got to remember too, like when a season starts out, they don't want to do anything big like in the first season because they don't even know if they're going to be around the next few seasons. That's why like a lot of seasons when they come out in TV shows are very short.
They were planning on killing Jesse at the end of this season or like beginning of next.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in a second, but let's talk about season 1. Since I did a lot of the talking so far about the behind the scenes, do you want to talk about where season 1 like starts off like in the show?
We start off in Albuquerque, New Mexico, following a seemingly average guy named Walter White, and he is seemingly has the a standard like American dream life. He has a good he's a teacher. He has a kid, another kid on the way, a wife. Things seem good, and he even helped contribute to a Nobel Prize project. But if you look a little closer, like the first half hour of this show is just showing how shitty Walt's life is.
Yeah.
His marriage with his wife is kind of like not super lovey.
No.
His son has cerebral palsy. Sorry. The baby that they have on the way, it wasn't planned, and like their money situation isn't very good.
Yep.
And to top all that off, he gets diagnosed with cancer.
Yep. And also too, he's got to work like 2 jobs too, like before this, like.
And we actually see like he's only supposed to be a he's only supposed to be a cashier, but his boss makes him go out and like clean cars anyway.
Yeah.
And then one of his students sees him and like starts like making fun of him and recording him.
Yeah. So maybe that student's the whole reason Eisenberg was created.
I know, right?
That video recorded. But anyhow, it's also his birthday this day. And he's 50. So basically, like.
Although Skylar even says like he was feeling a little down about being 50, so I feel like all of this is just Walt's midlife crisis.
Yep. So, yeah, he gets cancer at work, and I think the way like it gets sold is pretty damn awesome. Like people when they get cancer, we've seen it happen. Usually like are kind of in shock about it. They're kind of like don't really know what to do to themselves. And Will kind of acted like the way a typical person would react when they get cancer, but like he didn't in a way. Like it kind of we talked about this like it
like he didn't really seem like freaked out. He just seemed like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and this fueled him to and we'll talk about this at his party earlier. His brother-in-law Hank Schrader makes a joke saying, "Why don't you get some excitement in your life?" And Hank, as we continue to say, you should some jokes are left unsaid.
Yeah, you really shot yourself in the foot on that one.
Or the head. Literally.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Didn't even need to do that. All right, that's a good one. Rest in peace, Hank. So yeah, I think that's one of those other little things that really motivated Walt to actually like go through with it. Because you can see Walt was interested when they show the drug bust on TV.
Yeah.
But like I feel like Hank saying that really like pushed him to want to go on that ride along.
Yeah. And he goes on the ride along, and I feel like too something we didn't really talk about off camera, but we should talk about like it's real when you watch the show back. It's really cool to see how different the characters are, like Walt, and I especially think it's really cool to see like how different Hank is. Now, if you do watch the show, I feel like they kind of knew what they had in Hank, but like because the whole show was kind of setting up Walt's life, like I feel like in a sense they didn't really know the character that Hank was going to become like quite yet. Like
like in this season you can really tell like he's like the macho man, like action hero, but in later seasons you find out he's like just really a big teddy bear.
Yeah. And
like PTSD and shit. So like, it's kind of cool, like seeing like, it's kind of weird watching this and knowing like it's all like a facade. Like he's just acting.
Yeah. Like you could even see it like when he has the intervention and he's trying to talk about Walt's cancer. Like he can't put his emotions like together to really talk about it in a sense. So Walt sees though Jesse come out of like the window in the drug bust that they were doing. And
he knows Jesse because Jesse was in his class a couple years ago.
Yep. And this sets up the first scene when like the Walt and Jesse when it comes to like dialogue and stuff that they have together.
Walt shows up at his house at night and makes me wonder how Walt even knew where he lived, but whatever.
Well, he said because he looked it up in the school records and it was still in the school records.
Okay, gotcha.
So
that's smart.
Yeah. Basically I like too how Jesse even thinks like too he's gonna have like this big speech where he's gonna say don't do drugs, get your life together, but like Walt basically blackmails him to cook meth, and it leads to like one of the classic lines in the show, like you know the business and I know the chemistry. And he says I think we should partner up. And he's like either that or I turn you in. So I think it's pretty cool. And it kind of like starts that relationship, that Walt and Jesse have throughout the whole show in a sense.
I like how like at the beginning they were just like stuck with each other and they honestly didn't really give a shit about each other, but like later on they just form a bond where like they still hate each other, but like they can't live without the other type of thing.
Yeah. Until season 5 happens, which we'll get into that.
Yeah.
And then I like too how like Walt like realizes he can do this better because he knows like the chemistry, and I guess you really wouldn't think like if you like just like how much chemistry goes behind just making meth. Like a lot of people like think like you could just go make it, but there's quite a bit of chemistry that goes behind it. Which opened my eyes when I kind of watched this show at the time.
Yeah.
Which is not like something I would ever think about anyways, but like
Okay, Owen.
But we see like the first cook, and it's really cool. The first cook happens at like an Indian reservation, and that kind of is important because that leads to like the demise of Eisenberg later on.
Yeah. Before that, we should point out when they buy the RV.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know it's like the most iconic thing in the show.
I know, yeah. Yeah, so pretty much like they can't cook at the houses and stuff, and they have no place to cook, so they buy the RV. And this actually is important because Jesse tries to ask Walt like why he is doing this. And he basically he's saying he's doing it to make money, but like Jesse even notices like he's not the same guy that he was like when he had him in chemistry class. Like,
Yeah.
and because this is where Jesse like basically drops the name of the show. He's like, "What makes you want to break bad?" So it's kind of like
I know, and that's like the only time they ever say it. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's another thing that makes you feel bad for Walt. Like his life savings was like $3,000.
Yep.
Now,
And
as college students, that's a lot for us. As a guy who's been working for 30 years, not so much.
Yep. And we'll talk about that because that life savings doesn't really go into the RV. We find out. Then they do their first cook. And we should talk about like it's really different to see Jesse. I mean, obviously we'll talk about this later, but like Jesse, you could see like the stuff that like it's hard to believe like he was the mastermind behind the train scene because in season 1 you would never believe that. Because he's not like the smartest kid. Like we shouldn't say like he's not stupid, but you could just see like he hasn't really applied himself.
Yeah, he's street smart, but like not very like anything else smart.
Yeah. Pretty much. We should talk about too. Jesse creates the bitch compilation you can go find on YouTube because I think in every episode of Breaking Bad, he drops a lot of bitches. Not the way that you would think.
Yeah.
But
he does a lot of bitching.
Yep. They do their first cook and Jesse's like surprised like how good the meth is pretty much because
which I mean makes sense. Like Jesse even said chemistry and cooking meth have nothing to do with each other. So when Walt actually cooks like the best meth in the world, he's like, oh shit, all right.
Yep. Jesse takes it to Crazy 8 and Emilio, who like Crazy 8, who is like like a big distributor in the meth business. He's like the biggest one that does it streetwise, anyways.
Yeah, he's more like lower level. He's not like in the big leagues with Gus or Tuco, but like he's the biggest guy like on the block type of thing.
And Crazy 8's suspicious because like Jesse says he made this, but like because he knows Jesse, he knows that's bullshit. And this ties in because we found out that the guy that Hank and stuff arrested was Jesse's. Well, we knew that, but like we find out that it was Emilio, and he got Emilio bailed out of jail. No, Emilio got bailed out of jail. So they forced Jesse to go to the place where Walt and Jesse are cooking meth.
And one of the guys recognizes Walt from the ride along, and they think he's a cop. Yeah.
One thing we should talk about too is Walt's in his underwear a lot in this show, so we should make sure we talk about that. And then they force Walt to teach him how to use his method, like teach him his formula, and pretty much he blows up the RV pretty much, this chemical that
he doesn't actually like blow it up. He more like just throws some chemicals and like creates like a little explosion to distract the others.
And you can't breathe this stuff in because Emilio died from breathing the stuff in.
And it's kind of weird to think like this is Walt's first kill.
Yeah.
Because like the next like 2 episodes are like about like Walt having to kill Crazy 8. Yeah. And it's kind of weird thinking like he already killed someone.
I guess like he.
Well, I mean, I get why, because it was more of like a in the moment, he didn't have a choice.
Yeah, well, here he did.
And it's less like he like straight up killed him, and more like he just like prevented him from living, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, so that's Emilio's first death. I know I haven't seen Better Call Saul yet.
His first death, all right.
What?
You said that's Emilio's first death.
Oh yeah,
like Kenny from South Park. She dies every episode.
That's Walt first kill, but Emilio's death. I do want to talk about like because in Breaking Bad they do talk about how Emilio and Saul have met before. So I do wonder if eventually I haven't seen any Better Call Saul yet. We are going to get an episode with Saul and Emilio because I feel like if we don't get that, that would kind of be a missed opportunity because that would be kind of cool to see like Saul. Because remember they do talk about how he got Emilio off like from doing something, so it would be kind of cool to see that.
Yeah. I do know in the season when they first meet Saul, or do they meet Saul this season?
Next season.
Right. When they do meet Saul, when Jesse and Walt bring him out to the desert, he like mentions something, and like something about like, oh, if you're looking for whatever his name is, and he's like, oh wait, you guys aren't with that, like you aren't whoever's guys. I forget what he says exactly. Like that's a reference to something that happens in Better Call Saul. So
Interesting.
Or it hasn't happened yet, but like Vince Gilligan says like, yeah, he is referring to these people.
Yep. So then that's
Sorry, getting off track there. I just remembered that.
Yeah. But then pretty much they have to do something with pretty much Crazy 8 and Emilio because we find out Crazy 8 survives. Because I'm guessing he didn't like fully breathe in the stuff as much as Emilio did. Because
it just like knocked him out though, but like he's clearly like in bad shape. Like he's like his skin is like all like rashy and like skinny.
Yeah. So they have to do something about Crazy 8, and and Emilio's dead body because they can't find that, and because if that gets found, pretty much they'll realize they'll go to jail pretty much. So why don't you talk about like that part of the story because that's a pretty good bulk of the episode with Emilio and Crazy 8.
Right. Okay. So they flip a coin at the beginning, Walt and Jesse, to figure out who's gonna have to kill Crazy 8 and who's gonna have to dispose of Emilio's body.
Yeah.
Walt unfortunately loses that bet and he has to kill Crazy 8.
Yeah.
So most of the episode is Walt having to deal with having to kill someone. And Crazy 8 even says, because he's like locked up in Jesse's basement.
Yep.
He even says like, "Look, man, don't try to get to know me. All right, it's gonna make it even harder for you."
Yep.
And Walt does get to know him. He sits down. They have sandwiches together. Although we see Crazy 8 like takes the crust off his sandwich, and that's something Walt does later on. So I think it's really cool that like Walt ends up like taking the attributes of people he kills.
Yep.
And we find out more about Crazy 8. He worked in like a store with his dad, but he didn't want to be there his whole life, so he struck out on his own. He's now dealing drugs.
Yeah.
So it makes you sympathize with Crazy 8, even though he's kind of he's still an asshole.
Yeah. And I do like how they continually like tease like Walt was gonna kill him, like he was just gonna try to kill him before he like revived, like but he ended up coming out of consciousness, and Walt's like writing a list about like why the pros of doing it and the cons of doing it and stuff. And then
and he has another reason to kill him because Jesse apparently told him all about like Walt's family.
Yeah. So pretty much that's not good.
A lot of this episode is Jesse fucking up because Walt like storms in and Jesse's like cooking his like smoking his meth.
Yep. And doing like breaks the plate that the sandwich that was on. So when Walt's talking to Crazy 8, you could make the argument maybe Crazy 8 was only acting like a good person, so that way Walt would release him because Walt like I just kind of think it's kind of like you could say it's like one of those like weird things where Walt just is weirdly small because he instantly like notices that the plate like is missing.
I mean, I feel like that's understandable. He like was like, wait, something's up here, and then he just put it, and he didn't piece it together until he actually like pieced it together.
Yeah. So, pretty much at that point, that's when like Walt realizes like, yeah, I got no choice but to kill this guy now because he's gonna kill me.
He's got a weapon, and he's gonna try and kill me.
Yeah. So, Walt finally like chokes Emilio. They lock like a bike like collar on him, and Walt choked him with it. And this ties in.
It's kind of weird in the end that like Walt wanted to deal with Crazy 8 humanely, but like by waiting so long, he ended up killing him just like super brutally.
Yeah.
But really, if Walt just killed him right from the beginning, it would have saved them both some pain.
Yep. And you know, well, this is the significant because like later on, Jesse kills Todd this same way.
Yeah, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. And pretty much that's it for Walt. Like he's gonna basically get out of the business from this point.
Yeah,
and
we get flashbacks of what we later find out is Gretchen. You know, when they were in college.
Yep.
And they were trying to figure out like what the human body's made of, and they were like couldn't figure out like 1% of it, and she said like it's probably the human soul. Yeah. Kind of like say like Walt lost his soul by killing Crazy 8.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
But we should probably talk about like Jesse and the Emilio stuff because like that leads to a pretty like iconic scene.
Yep. So what do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, sure. Honestly, it's mostly for comedic effect. Like Walt says to get like a specific like container and like a specific fluid.
Yeah.
To like decompose Emilio, but Jesse gets sick of looking for the specific basket and just like decides to use his tub.
Yep.
Although it did lead to a funny scene where like Jesse's like trying to stuff himself in like a barrel like in the store, and some lady's just looking at him like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was pretty damn funny.
But Jesse starts pouring the liquid in his bathtub with Emilio, and Walt realizes, oh shit, and the body and guts fall through the floor, and they got to clean it up.
Yeah.
I love how Walt. What's up?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like a lot of people like in chemistry class say this wouldn't happen in real life, but I'm okay with it because it was meant to, because it's like it's TV humor, like
yeah, it's. I mean, maybe it would, maybe it didn't. Test it out. We'll see. Grab a dead body, put it in the bathtub, melt it. There you go.
Yeah.
I love how Walt just like, you need plastic because it melts through anything else, including bathtubs.
Yeah.
So there's that. I love how Walt just like so done with Jesse.
Yeah, that was pretty damn funny. And so then I believe that's the thumbnail of like the actual review I did. So that's pretty.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it makes it what the like surprised face.
No, the whole like thing, like the whole photo of it happening and stuff like that. Like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, pretty much at this point, like Walt and Jesse are like done with. We think they're gonna go their separate ways, and at this point, like Walt never told like anyone else that he's had cancer. Crazy 8 was like the only one he's told. So Skylar like notices like Walt's acting weird, but she has no idea why. Like he quit. We didn't talk about he quit his job because he basically told
his car wash job.
To fuck you, pretty much. Which you can kind of sympathize with Walt because like his boss clearly had to have known like he collapsed like a few days ago because
right, he just wants to send him out, and really like Skyler even says like Walt doesn't smoke or anything, so I feel like the reason he got cancer is because like he was constantly like breathing in car fumes.
Yep.
So that guy's fault that all of Breaking Bad happens.
That'd be funny. Eventually Walt like tells Skylar that he has cancer. I like the way it ends, like that episode.
It makes you think that Walt's going to tell her about like the drug business.
Yeah. And pretty much, Skylar acts like the normal way that anyone else would act, while depressed that like someone she cares about has cancer. And they tell Hank and Marie about it because when Walt was telling the story of like when him and Skylar first got together, she kind of broke down crying because she was kind of upset because
and everyone else was like, what's up with her? And then Walt had to be like, I have cancer.
Yeah. And I think this is important because like Hank even says like whatever happens, I'm gonna take care of your family to Walt. That kind of is very important to notice hindsight because when Hank's like going through his chase of Eisenberg and when he finds out that Walt is Eisenberg, he really wanted to make sure like even if like Walt he put Walt away, like his kids were gonna be like you know.
Yeah, and I think that just shows that Hank is like a legitimately like good dude.
Yeah.
Oh, and we kind of skipped over it, but want to talk about like the whole like Hank subplot?
Yeah, I was gonna save it, but yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, just because we're already on the topic of Hank, you know, we can
Yeah.
it's a season review. We can skip around.
So I talked about this. I don't really think like they had like an idea, like, you know, you could see like the Hank subplot like get set up, but like I don't think like they knew like how big the Hank story was going to become, just because, you know, they were kind of trying to get Walt into the business and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff with Hank, his story kind of starts really in season 2, in my opinion. After the shootout with Tuco and stuff like that.
Yeah. Honestly, this season Hank is kind of there for the joke, like, ha, Hank doesn't know that Walt's a drug dealer.
So think about this. Hank's story of getting it was because 2 kids were playing tag and found the mask.
Yeah.
So what if that's a big what if. What if those kids just didn't, because like the mask never would have gotten found if you know, those kids just didn't happen to be there.
Yeah, in that abandoned desert, yeah.
Yeah. So Hank notices, you know, he finds Crazy 8 because Crazy 8 drove his car there. And this is when he first sees the meth. And he notices like how pure it is and stuff like that. And you know, Hank is like saying like, you know, that it could be Crazy 8 or Emilio. But you know, when they realize Crazy 8 hasn't like shown up anywhere the past few days, they assume like he just stopped, someone killed him or something like that. So
Which isn't wrong.
Yeah. So they want a testing sample of like where the mask, like a DNA sample of where the mask came from, and it came from the chemistry lab at Walt School. And this scene's very cool because you know, this is like another one of those times where like it goes over Hank's head, you know, where he's like investigating and notice like half of the stuff is gone pretty much. And Hank like says like, you got to keep better watch off your turf. You don't want people questioning you, do you?
And like people give Hank shit for not knowing, but like you have to figure Hank has known Walt for years, and would not even consider. It's like me thinking that, you know, it's me like not knowing that you're a serial killer, you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like I've known you for my whole life, so it'd be like what the fuck?
Yeah, it's the same argument like because I feel like they took this element in a sense from Death Note. Why like Chief Yagami never would think like his son would be like this serial killer and stuff like that.
Yeah. And hey, we did a similarity videos between Death Note and Breaking Bad. Go check that out.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. And you know, it probably happens like all over the place. I can't really use the Walking Dead example because you haven't seen the show yet. So
right.
But yeah. Then but it is cool. I do like the scene. Since we'll just talk about all the Hank subplot, like at the baby shower, where like Walt and Hank are like talking about stuff like when it becomes legal, like, you know, like in like the 1920s, it was illegal to drink alcohol, but then like the next year it was, or something like that. Or you know, I feel like it's kind of cool, like Hank talking about how meth used to be legal, and then all of a sudden that it was. And I had seen that like Walt and Hank, because even though this is all this season takes place in 2008, a lot of the stuff is very current. Like the marijuana talk is current. Like now it's legal here. Is it legal in Florida? I don't really know.
I don't think it is. I think with a green card it is.
But like pretty much like it's legal here, but it's not legal like in Florida or like another state. So it's like I feel like that seems.
So it's like a weird like situation.
Notice too, like one of the drugs Walt didn't say was meth too, because obviously, imagine if he said meth then, I feel like questions would have shot up the surface. I think it's one cool scene that's kind of cool in a sense is when Walt and Hank have their card game, and like, you know, Walt's playing poker, and he's like, this is kind of like Walt and Hank versus Eisenberg, like first game they have with each other.
Exactly, which kind of reminds me of that scene in Death Note with you know, the tennis match.
Yeah, and you know, Hank folds, and I think it's kind of cool because Marie says like, "Oh, that was so disappointing," because like Hank would have won, and it's kind of like Marie kind of playing like the thin of the fans because that. Could you imagine like if like the conclusion of Hank versus Eisenberg?
Yeah, it was just like Hank was like, I give up.
Yeah, it was just that would have been cool.
Yeah.
That's all that.
That would have been us saying, "Oh, that's disappointing."
Yeah. So it is kind of cool. Like even though I don't think like they knew what they had yet, you could see like the foundations of like the Eisenberg versus Hank like feud.
Yeah,
So
they kind of had to set that up, you know. Like Hank is in the DEA, Walt
yeah,
is cooking meth. Like it had to come. It had to be a conflict at some point.
yeah. Um, then you know, back to Walt. So why don't you talk about too like once Skylar finds out like all the things that kind of happen a little bit from there.
Oh well, are we talking about like when she meets Jesse?
Um, maybe like all the ways she's trying to like find a way for Walt to get treatment and such.
Oh yeah, the intervention thing. So Skylar, I feel like this is also kind of shows the, like their like strained marriage.
Yeah.
She sets up an intervention to basically guilt Walt into getting the chemo treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And like from her point of view, I get it. You know, it's her husband, and like they have another kid on the way, and like it's she doesn't want him to die.
Yeah.
But like Walt like gives like this. Walt like basically says like I don't want to get chemo because I'm scared of you all remembering me as like this lifeless husk.
Yeah.
And then Skylar basically still guilts him into getting the chemo anyway.
Yeah. It's cool like to hear Walt say that too because at the end of the show like his kids and like Skylar in a way are gonna remember him a lot worse now than that.
Yeah. And
like,
that's why like it was a debate on if Walt really won or not, you know, because he was so worried about how people would remember him. And
yeah.
like now everyone hates him.
Yeah. Um and then I feel like you two like we should talk about like Skylar's like one of the most unliked people in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And this
A lot of people hate Marie. I actually really like Marie.
season one, I can see why people would hate her because she's very
season
like,
one I get.
but like I would say, you could even see like in season one she even cared about the people she loved. But
in the intervention scene, like when she hears Walt, like she even's like, I understand that, you know, like she felt really bad for Walt, and like she was okay with him not doing the chemo.
Because they talk about too, Marie like works with people like she's like some type of nurse. They never really say like what she does really.
She's some kind of doctor.
So she's like dealt with people like this and stuff like that, so that they sympathize with that. And like I think this is where like you could see like people don't like Skylar because she's so controlling. Like she wanted like everyone to kind of just see it in her perspective, and that's it. Like
the whole intervention scene is like great. It's one of my favorite parts of Breaking Bad. I even like the Hank part where you can kind of tell that like Hank is super bad with his emotions and like emoting.
Yeah. And I like to we should talk about too like the more Walt like denied doing the chemo, his son, because this ties into like to season 5, just tells him, why didn't you just die already? Just die. Because I forgot about this part when because that's the last words he ends up saying to his dad at the end of the show. So I think that's
really sad. It's another like ironic thing that's just that sucks.
Yeah. So yeah, it is kind of cool. Yeah. But yeah, pretty much we want to talk about like Skylar and Jesse's like first scene together. And it really shows in a sense. A lot of people point out in the comments because like Walt tells Skylar that like because Jesse called the house and
And then, Skylar called him back, and there was a funny scene where like Jesse's voicemail was like, "What up, biatch?"
Yeah,
and I was like, "What the fuck?"
It really shows how Jesse's changed too, because he would never have that probably as a voicemail today now. So,
oh yeah, no. Towards the end, he got like way more serious. He was still like a goofball, but like he was definitely more like he was less thug life.
Yeah.
So Skylar assumes that Jesse is the one who was like selling Walt meth. I mean, selling Walt like marijuana.
Yep.
Because
he froze on my end.
it's like, oh yeah, he froze on mine. So
just repeat it.
oh sure. So Skylar figured out that Jesse was the one selling marijuana to Walt because Walt had brought up he was smoking marijuana.
Yeah, because he was.
Was he?
He does it like in episode 2 because he's like so.
I thought he was just using it as an excuse.
Yeah, I mean he was, but he like smoked marijuana because I think he was so stressed that he had to like, kill Crazy 8. So.
Right. Okay, makes sense.
But yeah, this is a cool scene because Skylar's warning Jesse to stay away from Walt, or you'll be one sorry individual. And she's doing this in protection of Walt, but it's nice because this is like that hindsight thing. Because you find out later that in a way she was kind of protecting Jesse from Eisenberg.
Yeah, I mean obviously they didn't know that, but like, yeah, and I also like how she like warns him about like Hank, like my brother-in-law's in DA.
Hello? Hello? Oh, I can't hear you now. I can't hear.
Oh,
Oh, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
oh, cool. Anyway,
Did I ever tell you, by the way, that Skype in March had an $8.9 million net worth, by the way?
Really? Oh my god. The track like 2 billion. There you go.
Yeah. Anyhow, but yeah.
I was saying that it's funny that she also warns him about Hank, because like him and Hank also have like a messed up relationship, and
Yeah.
Hank is also kind of the reason why Jesse gets captured by the neo-Nazis later.
Oh yeah. So that's cool. So this is all cool stuff.
Yeah, I know. A whole lot of hindsight. I'm sure they wasn't like intentional, but like it's still fun.
Oh, not at all. But it's cool.
It's in season 1. If you could have predicted that Hank and Jesse would have teamed up to kill Walt, but then neo-Nazis killed Hank and captured Jesse, then I mean you're psychic at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I would assume you just watch. I assume you didn't even you read spoilers. Like there's no way.
Maybe you watched it backwards.
Yeah. I haven't. I imagine people did that.
I mean, I'm sure someone has.
Hey, Bird Box would have had shown that first. So.
Oh yeah.
Anyhow. So then we should talk about like 3 moments though. Even though Walt wasn't known as Eisenberg and he hadn't even used that name, you saw Eisenberg kind of come out. I'll name one and then you'll name one. First one is when we see kids making fun of Walter Jr. Because of his Bell's palsy, and Walter just goes and beats the crap out of him, and you can just see like the Eisenberg kind of come out of him. Then it's like it's his first Eisenberg moment in a sense too. What about and then you know the second one, and you can name the second one because it's the joke.
Oh right, where Walt walks into Tuco's lair basically, and says, I'm Heisenberg, and Tuco's like, the fuck? And they don't really bring it up on Heisenberg. He got that name from like a chemist.
Yeah.
And making a name for himself because he blew up the whole fucking building.
Yep. And then he blows up like a stingy like lawyer's
we didn't really talk about like how he got to that point.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So Walt is not really happy like the amount of money that he's making. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about like gray matter or anything like that. We're just jumping around.
It happens.
So
yeah, you want to talk about it or me?
I'll let you talk about it.
Sure. Okay, so they have a party at Elliot and Gretchen's house, and we find out that Walt worked with these guys in the past. We don't really know the specifics. And we also kind of know that like Gretchen and Walt had like a relationship.
Yep.
And at the party, you gotta feel so bad for Walt. Season 1 is like feel bad for Walt season.
Yep.
Walt feels like bad because he can only afford to give like Gretchen Elliot like a couple like shitty presents while everyone else is giving like big rich presents.
Yeah.
And when he's talking with all these successful people, they ask him what he does, and he says he's a teacher, and they assume they meant like a university professor.
Yeah.
Because like they couldn't even think like, oh, he's a high school teacher.
Yeah, it's sad. And yeah, I even like to like, you could just see like this awkward like conversation, like when Walt and Skylar like go and say hi to him, like welcome to the party. You could just feel the awkwardness in a sense. Like, I mean, I feel like you feel it now because like it's might be a hindsight thing, but even then, I think you could feel the awkwardness.
Yeah, something's up with them.
Yeah.
And we know this because Elliot offers Walt a job at Gray Matter, and Walt is like, "What?" And Elliot reveals that he knows that he has cancer. Like Skylar said, he has cancer.
Yeah. He doesn't like openly say it, but he basically, when he says like we have excellent health insurance, then that's when he knows like Skylar brought up the cancer. Because why else would he put up health insurance other than
Yeah, exactly. And like I feel like if Walt like thought that Elliot wanted him for like his his mind like to actually do good work, Walt would have accepted.
Yeah, he did accept. He did accept. Well, credits, man. Like
I know, right? There you go. Oh yeah, you said that the video like on YouTube, the comments were saying like, "Well, accepts, roll credits." The end.
Yep.
Pretty much. It's got so much stuff would be different. So Walt is like he doesn't want the pity, and that's kind of another thing. We're seeing a little bit of like Walt's pride.
Yeah.
Because later on, like Walt is like so prideful he cannot accept any help.
And I think that's where Hank sympathizes with Walt in a sense too, because he knows, because that's a men thing. Like men don't like to give up their pride when it comes to.
Which, yeah, honestly, like I can relate to that.
I do kind of like to. Skylar makes the joke that like, because I was hoping someone was gonna make the joke that he's opening his presents like in front of everyone at a party, like he's an 8-year-old. Like, thank you, like. If you hate Skylar, like that's the one thing you can say about Skylar. Like, thank you for making that joke. And we obviously got to talk about those ears. Oh
yeah, the Dumbo ears. Look, I'm sure he's a great guy in real life, but like, look, yeah. we gotta throw some shade, all right?
All he had to do when that last scene happened for him in season 5, he could have just flown away with those ears. And
I know, right? Oh my god. He could have just like turned to the left and crushed Walt with them.
Yeah, pretty much. Because Walt was so frail at the time, anything would have crushed him. So, but anyhow, we got to get back to serious business now. So,
well, I actually want to talk about Jess. So this is like these like 2 episodes are like just basically downtime after all the crazy shit that was. So Walt is feeling bad about himself because he's not making a lot of money, and his only real option to get more money is like a pity job.
Yeah.
And we don't really learn a whole lot about gray matter in this season until like, and we don't even really learn about it a lot until like season 5.
Yeah.
I do think it's cool, like it's brought up now.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about gray matter like in the future. For now, it's just kind of like there. Walt had a part in it, and like something happened. Like that's all we really know right now.
So then, we know Walt came up with the name. That you talk about that, but that's nothing more. So then, Jesse's life. Since you talked about the Walt thing, I'll talk about the Jesse thing.
Yeah,
sure. Jesse, and this is kind of cool because this is kind of something we see every day. I mean, not every day, but like in life, and families go through this and stuff like that. You see like this family who you kind of question like what relation do they have, because they don't really show like Jesse's with them yet. They just kind of show them at first, and
they seem like upper middle class. Like they're eating good food, they're in a nice house, they're dressed good, and
the son's like perfect, pretty much like he's like honors, and he's like taking all these like electives and stuff like that, and he's getting like oboe lessons and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, and he's only like 13.
Yeah. So Jesse goes in their yard, and we find out that they're Jesse's parents and brother. And this is like really cool because this is something like everyone can relate with, where you have this person that like continuously is like what we call like a druggie and stuff like that, and they'll try to kind of manipulate you to kind of think they're going to change, and
Not
then
even like a druggie, just like a like a like kind of manipulative.
yeah, like a screw up, yeah, and you think they're going to change, and then nothing happens. And I feel like that's kind of what because you could see Jesse's parents and stuff aren't bad people. Like they want to do the best for like Jesse.
Yeah, they do let like Jesse stay there for a couple days. Like they don't just like kick him out.
Yeah.
But like also at the same time, you do feel bad for Jesse. Like they clearly don't trust him. Like he's just in his room hanging out with his brother.
Yeah.
And they just but they like make him keep the door open. Like they're worried Jesse's gonna like do something to his little brother.
Yeah, I do kind of like in a sense too. Like they have that scene and like Jesse's thinking like he's the favorite child, but I kind of like how like his brother mentions like you're the favorite because like they consistently talking about Jesse and stuff like that. So
yeah, which I feel like is kind of sweet. And I wish they brought that up more because like Jesse's parents just seem kind of like assholes later on after this.
Yeah, and then especially
I wish we got to see his brother more because like we never see his brother after this.
Yeah, this is the only time. Yeah, pretty much.
And like Jesse seemed like he really cared about him, So like it kind of sucks.
Well, yeah, let's segue. We should talk about though because this is kind of cool. They show like a scene where Jesse's going through all his stuff, and we see like he took like a test that he failed at from Walt, and like Walt writes apply yourself to him. So I feel like that's kind of cool in a sense, like in hindsight. So
yeah. So like these episodes are like trying to motivate like Jesse and Walt to get back in the business.
Yeah. And Jesse, the cleaning lady's like cleaning Jesse's room, and she finds weed in it, like a joint. And basically his family kicks him out. But we find
out that like they're asking him if like this is his weed, and Jesse says no, it's not my weed.
Yeah. But he doesn't really.
It's a hint that like it really isn't Jesse's weed, but like he's not ratting out who it actually is.
Yeah. And then when he leaves, his brother comes out, and we find out that it was his weed. Mm-hmm. And this is like the first time we saw that Jesse really kind of is a good person deep down, because we really hadn't seen it that much until this episode.
Yeah.
Because he took the rat for his brother. When he asks for it back, like Jesse stomps on it, basically saying like, "Don't throw away your life just for this." Pretty much.
Yeah, and he's like, "Don't be like me," basically.
Yeah.
Which is a little sad, but like it's nice that Jesse really does care about his brother.
Yeah. So then, you could see Jesse's like trying, like he tries to apply for a job, but he's just not, making it in the real world.
Like his only real position is just like be dressed up in a stupid costume and like wave a sign.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, that's where Jesse meets his old friend Badger, he's working as a guy in a costume right now.
Yeah. And I feel like this is a cool scene when him and Badger try to cook meth. Jesse's upset because it's not as good as Walt's. So I feel like that's pretty damn cool. And you can see like the difference like Jesse has in the partnership, like when Jesse's having to do all the work and Badger's like basically the goofball in that situation. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So then in that same episode, Walt gets a call from Gretchen, and she's trying to ask one more time for him to take the money pretty much. And he lies to Gretchen saying that the insurance came through and are going to cover it. And that kind of ties in because later on they go back to this later on in the show. And then Walt comes up and he asks Jesse, "Want to cook?" Mm-hmm. So this ties in like Walt really doesn't have to do this, but he's just doing it because of his pride and stuff like that. And we should talk about season 1's very good at really, because obviously we find out the real reason Walt's doing this, but season 1 really makes it look like Walt had no other choice but to do it for the money. So I feel like there's no like real moment. The only moment we could say is like when he blows up Tuco's lair, but there's no other real moments like where
Walt's like enjoying this,
Yeah. So because later on he tries to tell Jesse like he just wants to be a silent partner in this, and that didn't happen at all. That lasted like one episode. So
Walt was in the thick of it basically from the get-go.
Yeah. And this is when this sets up the Tuco stuff. Walt is upset because he's not making like the money that they want to be making.
Mm-hmm. Jesse, like, he has connections, but like he's really like low level, you know.
Yeah. And we should talk about too. Jesse does finally notice that Walt has cancer because he notices like the cancer like symbol that like you get when you get chemo on like his chest.
And Jesse mentions like his aunt like had cancer, and like he says like she only lasted like a year, which really like hammers in that Walt doesn't have a whole lot of time.
Yeah, and Jesse's like the only one that like realizes pretty much like why Walt's doing all of this now.
Yeah.
So.
Oh right, hey, before we forget, it was I think before this, Jesse and Walt stole a barrel of methamphetamine.
No, that's after this.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so Walt wants Jesse to go to like the Tuco, but I guess like you have to be like real important to be able to meet Tuco. And like have
Jesse mentions that like Tuco's like the guy who's above Crazy 8.
Yeah, and you have to have good connections. And Jesse had connections because Skinny Pete was like in prison with him, so they like knew each other. Mm-hmm. And then Tuco beats the shit out of him and steals the meth. So this is when Walt, and it's cool because Walt actually shaves his head because he realizes that he doesn't want to let the chemo like take his hair from him. So that's
so he's like take it into his own hands type of thing, which really sums up his character.
Yep. And then he blows it up like we talked about. We already talked about that.
Yeah,
I do like the scene.
He blows up Tuco's lair, and I love how Tuco, the craziest guy in the show, is like, "Are you fucking crazy?" After he does that.
Yeah, I think it's cool
too. Makes you wonder who the real nut job there is.
Yeah, I think it's real cool too. Like, Tuco even says like he thought like it was all going to be a part of his plan. Where like Walt was going to bring him even more meth, and then he revealed like this is not meth. And then just blows it up. So
yeah. Oh, and I like how it shows that like this is the first time we see that Walt and Jesse really do care about each other, because like Walt was really upset that like Jesse got the shit beat out of him.
Yep.
He was even like, I want extra money for the bag you already took, and my partner's pain and suffering. Yeah,
basically paying all his medical bills. Yeah. And I think it's cool. One thing I think is like very cool. Is we talk about it like. Walt's lessons actually tie into the show a lot. Like the first lesson that he gives as a chemistry teacher is like him talking about how, like what chemistry is, how it's a change in matter, and how it's a change in life, and that's basically what Walt goes through like the whole show. And then later on, like when he exploded this fake meth, it was like a lecture that he had, and like you had to like pay attention to that lecture because. It ended up tying in later on. I just thought that was like really cool. And I know I'll talk about this too because a lot of people say it in the comments and stuff. Breaking Bad's very good at really explaining things like very descriptively where you would get it. Like a lot of people say like school and stuff will try to teach it, but no one will ever understand like what the hell they're talking about. But Breaking Bad,
God, I relate to that so much.
Because a big example of that is Saul when he explains money laundering. Like he explained it in the way like a first grader would have understood that. Because someone said like they actually had watched that scene from in like the business class from Oh
really? That's awesome.
So that just shows Breaking Bad's teaching people how to launder money. So
there you go. Be a criminal. Breaking Bad says it's cool. No, don't actually.
Money's probably just not for criminals though. You probably do it for like other reasons. So.
Yeah.
But then, why don't you talk about basically when Walt and Jesse like see that Tuco's crazy.
Well, they have a deal with Tuco like probably a couple weeks later because like Jesse's like out of the hospital. They meet up in like a scrapyard, and during one of the meets, Tuco beats the shit out of his own guy just because like he agreed with Tuco basically.
Yeah, it was weird. Because he even said, like, just remember who you're working for. And Tuco was like, you think they don't already know that? Like, just like...
so it just shows, like, Tuco's a nut job.
Yeah, and then, Walt and Jesse realize... Because they have to, like, meet a quota where they have to make a certain amount of meth for Tuco to get the money that they want.
Mm-hmm.
But...
And they know, like, Tuco's, like, snorting, like, a good amount of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's not even selling it. He's just, like, doing it himself.
Yeah. So, but they usually do a pseudo cook, but the big component they need to make it like is impossible for Jesse to get. So they decided to change to a different type of meth, which is basically the blue meth that we know throughout the whole show. So
My baby blue, yeah. So, and I think it's really funny how this time they steal a barrel of meth and they like meander through it. You know, like they really suck at it, and like they're on camera. Hank sees the recording of it and he's like, "These guys suck."
yeah, because
And
like
how in season 5, first of all, these guys wouldn't have even like a thought of stealing from a train, but like if they did, they would have gotten caught in like 2 seconds.
yeah.
So
Oh,
it's
can you
just
imagine?
really cool how far they go and like.
Can you imagine what Mike would have said if they tried to do this in season 1? Walt and Jesse.
Oh,
Mike
probably would have just shot him. Like, fuck it. Like, these guys are idiots.
yeah. And then so it's, and that's one thing we could talk about, like how much of rookies that Walt and Jesse were, because it's not just Hugh. It's like Jesse fucks up and accidentally doesn't know an open house is happening, and they're cooking meth like in the basement as it's going on.
Yeah.
And they can never run the RV to like go cook. When Crazy 8 does get kidnapped, that like they don't even know what to do with him for like several minutes. Like it takes, they're like worried about what he's gonna do. So it's pretty goddamn cool. Like it makes you kind of wonder, like, what if seasons 5 and Walt and Jesse were like in this? Because like Crazy 8 would have died, like he wouldn't have even lasted a day. Like,
oh yeah. What if they were like already hardened criminals? Oh my god.
yeah,
No one would have stood a chance.
yeah, maybe Gus, but that's it probably.
Yeah, pretty much. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. After the deal with Tuco, Walt like runs the numbers in his head, like how much money his family will need, like like education, food bills, like rent.
Yeah.
And he concludes he needs about like $800,000.
Oh yeah, because that ties in later too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just because like Walt reaches that number, and he just keeps going.
Yeah. And then
That really shows that like it's kind of funny how like here he's like, I want to get that number, and then like that's it. Like I'm done. Like I'm really not gonna get any more than that number.
yeah, it was cool.
But like
And
later
then,
on, Walt just gets that number, and he's like, well, whatever. I'm gonna keep going.
yep. And then there's two more things we got to talk about. One big thing is Skylar's starting to notice the changes in Walt, but she thinks it's because of the chemo. But it's like, really because like of this Tuco thing, that he's just because Eisenberg's kind of starting to like take over a little bit, not quite, but like a little bit. And Marie shoplifts and steals a tiara, we find out. And Skylar's upset about this, but like doesn't really know what to do about it because it's her sister. And this is kind of cool because like Walt even asked, like, what if it was me that was doing this? So it's kind of cool because like that kind of sets that up in a sense. And Skylar says like, you don't even want to know what I would do. And I kind of like too because Walt's like trying to like talk and like defend Marie in a sense because like what he's doing is much worse than kind of what she's doing in a sense.
Yeah, shoplifting, cooking meth. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like cool. And even though like, because Marie's shoplifting kind of leads to Hank getting closer to the Eisenberg case because it's because of her shoplifting in season 4 that he gets the Gail Benneker like folder in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I always talk about like maybe he would have gotten it, but I feel like if like Hank was just working with the DEA, he wouldn't have been able to like go through the folder as like in depth as he would have been able to. Like,
right.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, the season ends with Tuco like beating the crap out of one of his henchmen, and Walt and Jesse just look on in fear. I kind of like,
and I feel like this is where they're like, all right, we gotta like kill Tuco because he's gonna kill us.
Yeah. And they leave it with like setting up. One minor criticism I would have said is I would have had season 1 end with like Walt blowing up Tuco's hideout.
Oh, definitely.
I think that's just a bigger ending. But the plot, because
I thought that's how it was ended when we first like said we were gonna go back and review season 1.
Yeah, so I keep thinking that, but then I found out that it actually wasn't. So that was definitely interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much all of like season 1. I feel like we broke down. Let me just make sure. I think we broke down everything. Video was a little over an hour because we had some Skype issues, but
That's not too bad. Usually reviewing 3 episodes takes like an hour, so I mean, that's you got through like 7.
Yeah, and like we wanted to make sure we got everything.
Season 1. Any like overall thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. I feel like it does a good job, like setting the foundation of everybody's characters. You get to really like see. It's really nice, like in hindsight, to kind of like see like where everybody like started off. Like, even though like everyone's life kind of sucks, like if you think about it, other than Hank and Marie's, maybe like no one's life really in the beginning of the show is really all that great either. Like Jesse's life isn't, I guess, terrible, but he's just kind of like a screw up, kind of in a sense. Walt's life's pretty shit. And then Skylar's life is not bad, not good, but she's just kind of going through the motions. And I think it's like cool to like see Walt's character development. Oh, we forgot to talk about when Walt blew up that guy's car, by the way.
Right. Yeah, you want to talk about
it? The guy's an asshole, and Walt's had enough. And this is when Eisenberg takes over, and he goes and takes a windshield wiper and like puts it on like the motor of his car, and it like blows up.
That guy gets screwed over in Better Call Saul too. Owen hasn't seen it yet, so I'm not going to talk about it. But I think that's a really cool cameo. That the guy gets fucked over by Saul and by Walt is pretty funny.
That's pretty damn cool. But yeah, I feel like it's good like foundation. I think the acting's really good. I feel like everyone's at. You can see like not necessarily how new they are at it, but like because I feel like I looked it up. Like this is the biggest role Dean Norris probably has ever had up to this point. So this was like the most acting he's probably had to do like in like a sit-in and stuff. Yeah. You can kind of see like even though Jesse's acting's great, you could see like he wasn't new at it, but like you could see like that he's not the the great actor that he is even in season 5. Like I don't think like
he won like an Oscar or an Emmy, I forgot.
Yeah, like I don't think
in season 5. So like,
I don't think anyone would have called that he was going to win like an Oscar in season 5. But like I think the best acting is Bryan Cranston, but like that's obviously Bryan Cranston has had experience doing this, but he kind of hasn't in a sense because he hasn't really had to play like a serious role really that much. So I think and then I like I just like it. I think it's a good way to get Walt like into the business, and I really think it's really fun to see Jesse. And like we said, we should talk about it. It's just funny to think where the show would have gone if they had killed Jesse off in season 1, because that just changed. I feel like Breaking Bad wouldn't be obviously we wouldn't be doing this right now because there'd be no movie coming out on October 11th. But I feel like Breaking Bad wouldn't be what it is without Jesse, because Jesse really sets everything up in motion. And I feel like even if Breaking Bad would have not lasted as long as it did, I feel like Jesse's a good bulk of the show. But if I was to give it like a letter grade, and I announced this on my Wrestling Fortune 44 channel, we're gonna update it. We're not just gonna do letter grades. We're gonna do percentages. So if it's a B minus, you're gonna say like if it's like 80%, and like where in the B. Because you gave me this idea because it's like there's higher B minuses and there's lower B minuses. So we're gonna try to.
All right, cool. Yeah, I contributed. So what do you think?
I'm gonna give it a B minus, and I'm gonna give it a 84%. Like
I'm gonna say a B, just because I feel like it's a very underrated season, and I mean you're pretty much introduced like to pretty much the whole cast. Like there are characters we haven't met yet, like Mike and Saul.
Yeah.
Like for the most part, like this is like our main group. The acting's really good. I love how it's like more street level. It's very different from later on.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely do like later on better, like where they're like the more hardened criminals, like they're like doing stuff professionally.
Yeah.
Like this does have a charm to it that they're like screwing up and like they're on like that like lower level. They're not in the big leagues yet.
I think I know I kind of wish Death Note kind of took this. Like, I like Death Note, but I wish Death Note kind of like show, because like this approach where Light was kind of. I mean, I guess Death Note, though, you can't really make any mistakes, but
Yeah, but like I get what you're saying, like because Light was like the most wanted man alive on like episode like 2, you know.
yeah. So I kind of wish like maybe we could have gotten like a few episodes where Light was like new to doing it, where
Yeah, really, the only screw up Light had was like his first kill, and that was only because like he didn't think he'd actually die.
yeah, right. But I kind of wish we could have like maybe seen like maybe this is why I kind of think like Death Note's a little too short, because I feel like if Death Note was like had a little bit more episodes, we could have gotten something like that,
Honestly, it's funny how it's kind of the reverse. Like Walt gets better and better, like more experience as time goes on, but in Death Note, like gets crazy and crazier and makes more mistakes as time goes on.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny how that happens.
Yeah, so, I give it a B. Give it like an 85, 86.
Okay. I'll just say you gave it an 86, so that way, just because you're on the fence. But but yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video. We're gonna try to do season 2. So we will say, because season 1's short, we were able to do it all one sit-in. The rest of the seasons are going to be tougher because so much happens in the next few seasons.
Yeah, so we'll divide it like from like beginning to mid-season, and then mid-season to
So season 2, we're going to do episodes 1 through 8. So we're going to basically do until Better Call Saul, because Better Call Saul, I think, is the episode that like really, after that episode everything really changes, because
Saul is such an important character. Yeah,
you really kind of don't notice it, because like you notice it but don't notice it until you like watch it. But yeah, pretty much that's it. We have like nothing left to say. So I ask, but let's see if it happens. Do you have anything you want to plug or promote?
Check out AJ Talent. I'll upload eventually. I uploaded like a year and a half ago, but I'll come back. I swear.
Yeah.
The problem is my computer won't let me record anything, because like its battery's like dead. Like I need to keep it plugged in all the time, or it dies.
That's
so my
weird.
computer constantly thinks it's on like 1%.
Oh, I know why. Because
you fell. Problem.
Yeah, you fell for the mistake where you can't keep your device plugged in longer, because it doesn't realize the battery life's not as strong when you keep it plugged in, because
Oh no, that wasn't the problem. It just like it was fine, and then like my battery just like damaged. Like I need a new one.
Oh, so that might be it.
Like it dies with constant charge.
As for me, and really, and for us, like I said, this channel for more Breaking Bad reviews. We're gonna try after the Breaking Bad reviews to do some movie stuff. Because I know we have some movies we've been on for way too long, so we gotta do some of those. Young Brothers. Me and AJ are gonna be uploading Red versus Blue stuff, season 5 review, the video series, and then the whole Blood Goats Chronicle, or Ulk, whatever you want to call it. And then at some point we're gonna do a 400th video. We don't know what it's gonna be yet. And it's still ways away.
We'll talk about it. We got like a bunch of other stuff planned, so 400 videos is still a little while off.
Yeah, because I think we're almost there, but like we can't do anything really right now because we haven't watched Red vs. Blue yet. And then make sure you check out Less Than Fortune 44 for my 2000 video where AJ makes a cameo on towards part 2. So, make sure. And he also is in like you get, if you really want to see how AJ was like doing videos the first time, then that's in there. So not the whole video.
I was like a super redhead. It was not good. I was 13 and my voice was all squeaky. Just don't.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to kind of watch. Hey, it's like Breaking Bad, watching it in hindsight. So.
Well, it sucks for me because I'm like, because that's me.
I wonder if that'd be funny if you could like see Walt like watch himself like.
Oh yeah. Do you think Walt like in season 5 would like cringe at what he does in season 1?
I would imagine. Yeah. Like he probably.
Walt's us.
Yeah. I don't think Jesse would though.
I feel like Jesse would be like, "Oh man, I'm still so cool."
Yeah, but Walt would. But anyhow,
season 5 Jesse and season 1 Jesse would getting to like a bitch off?
I think they would. That'd be cool.
These are the things we talk about when the video ends.
I would like to imagine season 5 Walt having to put up with season 1 Walt. No, season 1 Jesse.
Oh my god, he'd probably kill him.
Honestly, yeah. Anyhow, we're just rambling. We got things to do, so we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.